Hiya, this is crazy. Maybe I say that too often. Do I say that very often? I might say that all the time. Sorry if I do. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I feel like this might need to start being, I don't know, maybe like the Star Wars thing when Captain Jean-Luc Picard would say, Captain's log, number so-and-so and such and such. I'm starting to feel that way. But in a maybe in a different way, because it is January 14th and it is snowing outside. And we are in the middle of this crazy, deep polar freeze, massive thing that most of the country is in, I guess all the way even down to like the Gulf Coast. But the reason I'm saying that is because it is snowing and it is a balmy 7 degrees. And I'm actually going somewhere with this weather report. I promise. Just hold on. I am going to get there. I think we absolutely need to be prepared as much as possible when we know weather is coming. And I also know that it's very difficult a lot of times for the people that do the weather. I know there's an appropriate term for those people, but I can't think of it at the moment. Somebody drop it in the comments because the brain is just not working. Maybe it's freezing. But it's very difficult to predict the weather, and I understand that. And it's one of those things that the forecast can be really good, really scary, really intimidating, all of that stuff. Oh, and by the way, if you hear weird background noises, it's because I've got water dripping, so my pipes won't freeze. Anywho, what I'm saying is forecasting the weather can be really difficult, and we, for the most part, pay attention to it so we know if there's a massive snowstorm coming or if we're going to have inclement weather, all of these kinds of things, and we prepare. Like here, people have been preparing for the last 3 or 4 days because they said we were going to get maybe some forecasts said 6 to 7 inches, some said 3 to 5. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to end up being? But that means in a lot of places that are not used to snow, kind of here in the quasi-south, we go to the store and we buy water and we buy bread and you know, all the things we buy in case we can't get out to get supplies, like if we lose power or we can't get out and we forgot to buy milk. But one of the things that I see happening, let me just say in my little world, is when I see that we're going to have cold weather and I see that we have a possibility of snow, I get a little nervous. No, actually, I probably get a lot nervous at the initial thought of it, because last year I lost power for 4 days when we had about 6 inches of snow, and I lost power for 4 days. And I live in a tiny house that's totally electric, and that can be kind of concerning. So the 2 cats and I huddled in the bed for 4 days, off and on. And I would be on my phone texting with friends or, Facebook, just to have contact. My point is, there is this slight sense of fear that can come in when we see a forecast of inclement weather. There is this chance that it's going to be bad and it's going to cause issues. And it's okay to be prepared. It's important to be prepared. But at the same time, it's important to know who's in control, which is not the weatherman. And it's easy to slide into this fear of. And what I have discovered is fear, one of those things that the Bible says, 365 times, do not worry. Well, it's kind of the same, do not fear. In the brain, like memories are stored together. All of the good, happy memories are stored together. So if you think one happy thought, it can kind of go into another happy thought and another happy thought, and that's all good. but it also works, and it really works, for negative thoughts, and one of those negative thoughts being fear. Fear of one thing, fear of snow or bad weather or having a wreck or something happening to a family member, can spiral into massive amounts of fear, can spiral into fear of right this minute, the next minute, tomorrow, the next day, the next week. And we live and we operate from fear, and that becomes how we see the world. This whole everything in the world, I'm waiting for the shoe, no, I'm not saying that right. I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Did I say that right? It's a saying. I can't think of it. But anyway, basically you're always on edge waiting for the next bad thing to happen instead of being excited about the next good thing that can happen. And y'all, I am so preaching to the choir right now. I think is there a choir? If there's not, we'll have to get one. But it is really difficult to throw the brakes on when you go into that level of fear, when you go down that road and it's this, okay, well, this might happen. Oh my gosh, but if that happens, then this happens. And if this happens, then that happens. And it just continues. And you know what happens then? I bet you can guess. If you guessed cortisol levels go through the roof, you're right. Cortisol being that fight, flight, or fear, and otherwise known as stress. And we all know stress is a killer. When we are walking in and working from a constant high level of cortisol in our body, then that is setting everything in the body up for massive disease, pain, stress, like I just said, as well as heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disease. Just pick one and fill in the blank, because they're pretty much all related to and stem from stress, which is from high cortisol levels, which again is from fear. It stems from negativity, is going to lead you to these high cortisol levels, which then, you know, that's the basic. And many things that we deal with and we work through our lives have a basis and a foundation in fear, which is crazy to think about how much fear we actually, hold on to in our day. And I'm not going to stay on this negative path here. We're going to jump to something else. But this is what's funny about it. That fear is not what we were initially created to experience. Okay, I'm going to throw a verse in here that doesn't initially seem to make sense, and it may not make sense in your brain, but for some reason in my brain, it just resonates. It's Matthew 5:45, and the second portion of this verse says, He, as in God, causes His sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. And when it says He causes His sun, that's S-U-N, not S-O-N. So here is the crazy thought that's going through my head. I said crazy again, didn't I? What if, and how about the fact that says He causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous? I just heard someone, I listened to a podcast just the other day, yesterday, today, sometime, and they had kind of quoted this verse, and it says, He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. They had totally taken this verse and meant and thought about it as in the rain is a bad thing, so you're going to have bad stuff happen in your life. Well, if we quote that verse that way, where it says He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous, God doesn't send bad stuff. He doesn't send negative stuff. He doesn't do that. He's all good. He sends only good. So I was really surprised when I heard this person refer to this verse, meaning the rain was something bad. The rain is something amazing. It's one of my favorite things, but it's one of those things that we have to have the rain to nourish, and it grows. So God sends the sun for growth. He sends the rain for growth. He doesn't send anything bad. He doesn't say, I'm going to send this and it's bad and you deserve it. That is not who God is. Okay, I really, really, really am just, y'all can just listen in because I'm talking to myself right now. This is so very important to realize that there is no negative in good. There is no negative in God. There is no bad in God. And he sends he sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous, and he sends the sun to rise on the evil and the good. It doesn't say he's going to only send sun or rain on those who love him. He's going to love everyone. We don't always want to think about this, but he loves everyone. What in the world does this have to do with fear? Well, let's go back to that other little verse that says, there's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears punishment has not been perfected in love. That's 1 John 4:18, and that's from the NET. The NIV says there's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. So this is where we've got this love and fear thing going on, because massive fear, lots of fear, any fear, some fear, whichever, means we have not recognized the massive love of God. No matter what happens, we have not fully come to the realization that he's in control of everything, and there is nothing that's going to get by him and nothing for those who love him. And if he's allowed the sun and the rain, which are blessings, to come to people that have no idea who he is and don't really want a relationship with him yet, if he's allowed blessings for them, then how much more is he going to allow blessings for us? I'm not saying difficult things aren't going to happen to believers, and I'm not saying there won't be challenges and pain and heartache, but what I am saying is what I always say: God works all things together for good for those who love him. That is like my go-to a bunch, because I have to hold on to that. I have to know in where I am right now in my life, no matter what's happening and what it looks like to me, he works all things together for good. So fear can't have a place. It can't have a place in my life. It can't have a place in a life that I want for a future in a relationship with God. So yeah, this is kind of a backwards, weird idea, jumping from Matthew 5:45 to 1 John. But really, they go together when you look at it, when you think about it. Okay, so what's the practical application here? Here it is. Figure out where the fear is feeding into your life. Who and what is spoon feeding you fear? So I will tell you, I got a text this morning and I'm like, okay, we're good. The weather, blah, blah, blah. I'm fine. I'm good. And then I get a text from the electric company saying, oh, and we've got severe weather. And if the power goes out, unhook, turn off your heaters and appliances and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, what? Yeah, there it is. That one text was a spoonful of fear. So let's be Mary Poppins and find a spoonful of sugar instead and go to the Word. Where else is your life spoon feeding you fear? Is it from the news that you're watching, from the people you're talking to, from what you're listening to? Where is it? Or is it just from your past? Figure out where you're getting a spoonful of fear and decide to find a spoonful of sugar in Scripture, because it's there. Speaking of sugar, which I'm not going to get right now, my coffee's cold, so I think I'm going to get some hot tea. And just a thought, if you're not signed up for my email, you may want to jump in there. I will leave a link in the description below. The email sequence, good things, they're about to change. There's new stuff coming out, and you might be interested. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Have a great day and stay warm.